Get more reaction now and talk with Dr. Robert Gutsche. He's a politics and media lecturer at Lancaster University in the UK. And you're very welcome, Robert. Thanks for your time tonight. Firstly, let's just talk about the Saudi issue and potential withdrawing of military support for the Saudi incursion in Yemen. We have to wait, don't we, a few more months before this vote actually happens. But when it does happen, if it voted against supporting the Saudis, do you think it would actually have any real impact on the American policy with Saudi Arabia?
Well, you know, the Western democracy, both in the UK and the US in the last week, have just shown how vulnerable those political systems are in the sense that neither country can seem to get their ships in order, or their houses in order, and delaying votes by those who are rightfully elected into either Parliament or, into the US case, into Congress, delaying the ability for people to speak or to take action is not a very democratic part of the process. Now, to your question specifically, when this comes back for discussion, if it's allowed for discussion next year, it very well may pass. It very well may stop some of these sales and some of these involvements with Yemen. But this is a war that the United States has been very entrenched in for several years. And for people to now come to the table and say it has to stop, you know, this is obviously connected to the murder of a journalist. But it does make you wonder if the resolution does go through, will the United States still be operating behind the scenes and in other ways that aren't so easily connected on pieces of paper, i.e., you know, supplying weapons in non-discrete manners?
There's a lot of pressure, isn't there, on Donald Trump, too, to alter course with his policy with Saudi Arabia. Do you think this vote about the Khashoggi murder was more aimed, or as much aimed at him, as it was perhaps the Crown Prince himself?
Well, absolutely, and there are two kind of things to think about here. One, that's unfortunate that you know, it's come to this point for the Congress to actually have to take some action. I mean, it certainly took them long enough playing a very safe political game, waiting for the Trump administration to take action. So it's sad that this wasn't on their agenda earlier. So that's kind of also placing where relationships with Saudi Arabia and the murder of a U.S. resident kind of weighs in Congress. But second, this is absolutely a referendum of sorts on Donald Trump himself. And I think a lot of people, quite frankly, were shocked by his behavior related to relationships with Saudi Arabia and this particular murder, that the way he talked about it in such a cavalier manner, and his delay in doing anything. He still hasn't really taken any steps in acknowledging what his own government is saying happened.
Sure. There's an argument, too, that I've heard, Robert, that perhaps he's playing for time because it's not clear what's going to happen in Saudi Arabia and whether, you know, Mohammed bin Salman will actually get moved to one side and a new person will come into power. Is that something that you should consider, too, when looking at this?
Well, I think that's the question. You know, that's a good question, but it assumes that Donald Trump is really operating at that higher level of analysis right now. I mean, I think he's operating at a very baseline sort of political strategy here of distract and hope that this goes away, so that we can maintain the types of profitable relationships that the United States military and government and businesses have with Saudi Arabia. But he's also trying to distract us so this doesn't become a larger issue for the 2020 presidential bid. So he's playing, you know, wars on multiple fronts here, where he's trying to protect his own political realities, and he's trying to create a reality about the United States involvement. As you heard from his own comments, his decisions are about America first, even if that means contributing to the deaths of thousands of civilians in Yemen, because it benefits the power structure and the business structure and his own, you know, bid for re-election.
Fascinating talking to you, Robert. We're going to have to leave it there. That was Dr. Robert Gutsche. He's a media lecturer at Lancaster University. Politics and media, I should say. Thank you.